How we doing? I'm Dusty. Got Chris and Tony with me like normal. Tough game. We got the Ravens, a game that really was kind of the sway in the season that we think. If you beat the Chiefs, you beat the Ravens. If you're two and what are we? 2-2 at this point, and you beat those two teams, you feel really good about yourselves. But we're not. We're not. We didn't make plays when we needed to make plays, and the defense. We got a lot to dive into. So I'll let you guys speak your minds first. Big thing I will hit on eventually is the safety room in the defense. I think you guys both can agree with where I'm going with that.
Well, I'll open up the talk with something positive. Something positive, because I've told myself I'm going to try to stay positive, but I know it's not going to happen.
Hey,
The
Tony,
Cincinnati Bengals.
if you're going to talk about the punter, there was a weird punter thing going on
No,
on Twitter,
it's
and
not it's not
I
the
don't want to.
punter. It's not the punter, and I'm not gonna roast him for wearing his wedding ring, and I'm not gonna bring up the conspiracy that his wedding ring was the reason that the snap was botched. No, I'm going to talk about
Good.
how good this offense is and how well we're seeing pass pro. We're seeing Joe Burrow throw. And hallelujah, I was proven right. I think a lot of us were proven right that T. Higgins is him, and he's the one that
He
opens up the
is.
offense. But yeah, we're doing okay otherwise. I'm going to try to stay positive, but I know there's a lot of negatives to talk about. So
Chris, what do you
Yeah,
think, brother?
throw all the positives out the window. Everybody's getting roasted tonight. No, I'm just kidding. Like you said, the offense is good. There are legit bright spots on the team, offense, and even a couple of bright spots on the defense, even though they're like horrible right now. Part of the problem is that like we're getting a lot of possessions, which is great. We're putting up a lot of points, which is great. But that means the other team gets a lot of possessions too. So when you're dealing with defense that's not very good, that's really tough. But bright spots, Eric All looks like a real tight end. So hopefully he can stay healthy and we can see what he actually looks like throughout the rest of the season. Because I think Gesicki has not been the dude that I had hoped for. So
he did have a couple nice catches to his credit.
He had a couple nice plays, but at the end of the day, like the defense is treating him like a receiver. You know, if he's in the game, they're not really like defending him like he's a tight end. They're not really like having to defend the run if he's in line nearly as hard.
Could it be though that we're not throwing him on the right routes? Like just spitballing here for a minute. I'm seeing a lot of boundary throws to Gesicki. I don't see a whole lot of inside. I see 90% outside. Could it just be that we're not really using them in the right manner?
I don't like him as a tight end. So like I think that when he's in the game, like I think he's fine as a pass catcher. But like as a tight end, you have to be able to do more than pass catch because
we have Eric All.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The bright spot is Eric All. Even Drew Sample is the opposite. Drew Sample's a good blocker, and every once in a while he can get you out there in a route.
I think Drew's a little more athletic than people give him credit for. Remember last year when he broke that, like it might be like a 20-yard touchdown, but he had a little looseness. Drew will do. He's not a dude that's going to go crazy, but he will do the dirty work and he'll do things right. I think our tight end room is pretty solid, man.
Yeah,
I don't mind them. I don't mind them at all. I think it's a matter of I don't want to go down to one tight end, and I don't want to play year after year musical tight ends. I really want to see like some consistency out of that room, whether it comes from Eric All and Sample moving forward, or whether we keep Gesicki on the cheap. You know, that's someone that's going to really come into play if they keep T. Higgins or not, right? Because you need pass catchers, and it ain't coming from Irwin and Yoshi and Charlie Jones, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't even really think about the end of the year and like what happens next, like, because I'm just so like wrapped up in everything that's happening right now. That Chase Brown looks great every time he touches the ball. He's explosive. He's fast. Zach Moss is consistent. He does what we ask him to do. He's not really a dude that's gonna break you off a 50-yarder, but he's solid. He picks the right hole. He's smart. He doesn't really get tackled in the backfield that often. The defense, I know we wanted to keep it positive to start, and we wanted to, but like I just can't sit here and be like, oh yeah, we got these good things, because like we could do that if we almost lost. If that field goal is able to be put up and McPherson drills it, then this is a whole different conversation where it's like, man, the defense made one stop. We got lucky. We got the one play we needed, and the whole tone of everything is different. But the fact that it ends in a loss really sucks. Geno Stone he's bad. He's bad. I've mentioned it on here before. Like when we have the let's put in Jordan Battle Talks. After week 2, I'm like, is it possible that we do Von Bell and Jordan Battle, on the field at the same time? Because Geno Stone has not been good. Not only has he not been good, he's not been in position. So the play that comes to mind is obviously the Superman play when Lamar is stiff-arming all of our defensive linemen and kicking Sam Hubbard in the face and just like Sparta kicking him to the ground. And, he runs to the sideline. He makes a throw across his body. And if you look
to the middle of the field,
if you look at the back end of that play, Geno Stone, so there's one receiver that's going to the boundary to the back corner, and he's covered by the cornerback. I don't remember who the cornerback was. It might have even been.
I think it was DJ Turner. It was DJ Turner, I believe.
Geno Stone likely is cutting back across the field. Geno Stone is just shuffling his feet with Lamar. He has no idea, no awareness of where the receivers are around him, and he's just like, I'm going to cover the 3 yards around me. And like,
so he was in a tight zone, but he was taking it a little bit too seriously. Were we in zone there, Dusty? Do you remember?
We were in zone.
We was, yeah. But Pratt moved up. So the problem is he's playing his space, and then Pratt's moving forward. And yeah, Pratt had his spot, and he comes up and he puts pressure. It was Pratt who pushed him out, but the whole thing was, I believe it was DJ Turner. He had it had been the left side of the end zone. Stone was there, and he didn't he literally was just eyeing. He was just eyeing Lamar. He was not doing it. He wasn't looking at his coverage. It's just like,
he kept moving to the boundary. He kept shuffling to the boundary, which is like at the beginning of the play, that's good. You're eyeing the quarterback. You got to see where his eyes are. You got to see where he's looking to throw the ball. But at a certain point in any scramble situation, the defensive backs need to have a feel for like, where are the guys around me? Because like it doesn't do the defense any good for Geno Stone to shuffle. I'm looking at Lamar. I can see his eyes. I know where he's gonna, you know what I mean? If he doesn't know, like, I need to be within 10 yards of a guy if I'm even thinking about making a play. Like he was bad. He had no awareness of anything that was going on around him. He didn't know where the offensive guys were. He didn't know where the other defensive guys were because the play had gone on too long. At that point, all your coverages are broken. Your responsibility is just like, try to be near somebody so you can make a play if necessary. Because there are guys that are following the receivers around, and there are guys that are like just in zone, get ready to pass somebody off, whatever. But once you're running around for 5 or 6 seconds or 4 or 5 seconds or whatever it was, you got to just find a guy and stick close to him.
Like zone release. Yeah. Like zone release. Yeah.
So those guys have to be able to pass the guys back and forth. And Geno Stone had no awareness and just was covering the front of the end zone that didn't exist because the only receiver that was over there was in the back of the end zone with the cornerback basically chest to chest with him. Like it was horrible that he kept shuffling. And all of a sudden this window that opens up is where he just should have been in the first place.
So the whole thing with that too, let's go back to the beginning, the very start of the play. This is where I get infuriated. Was the start of the play? Lamar snaps the ball, catches it, bobbles it. He messes the snap up. Right. It was like it was over 2 seconds before he picks the ball up and gets up and starts scrambling. There was no pressure at all. There was nothing. That's the thing that frustrates me the most. Any other team in that situation, it would have been a dead ball. Lamar would have had to jump on it and just lay down, and then the play would have been dead. It would have been over with. So you start out with that, and then you have Sam Hubbard, who actually played a decent game in the first half. He goes and he gets stiff armed. He's 270 some pounds. He gets stiff armed by 180 or 200 pound Lamar Jackson. Like, that's embarrassing, dude. You get stiff armed and get pushed to the ground by this dude. And then in Pratt, he moved. I believe it was Pratt. It might have been Davis Gaither that moved up and pushed him out of bounds. But still, a hell of a pass, honestly, by Lamar. But like the whole thing was bad. It was just that sequence was the worst case scenario you could imagine. He was like at the 20-yard line or something when he threw the ball. It was ridiculous. There should have been pressure. The laps of breakdown at that point, because they were basically up close to the goal line. Like, everyone knew, hey, this is our area, this is our zone. We're covering the spot. In Geno Atkins. I wish we had fucking Geno. Excuse me. I wish we had freaking Geno Atkins, but we didn't. Sorry for cursing, but we didn't have him. But Geno Stone, I don't know what the dude's doing. He is so low in PFF, not just PFF. PFF ain't end all be all. His angles, his tackling. He's not known for his tackling. Just everything about him is so bad. Von Bell is obviously slow, and it's embarrassing. They should be. I get you want a veteran, right? But when we had Mike Thomas, was Mike Thomas our starting player for us? No, he's a special. He got a role with special teams, and he was a leader and a captain. He doesn't have to be on the field to be a locker room guy, right? Like, you guys remember Mike Thomas? Like, it's just the whole thing makes no sense. And really, the rookie, what's his name? Jackson. Why am I forgetting his name? The 6th round pick, the safety. I believe his last name.
Anthony.
Sorry. Deshaun Anthony is the dude's pretty athletic. Pair him up with Battle. Battle started for us last year. He's a 3rd round draft pick. Now, if you're going to go into the weeds with I know a lot of people don't agree with the Jesse Bates, like my stance, like pay your star players. Like, yeah, you got to pay everybody. You got to make a team and a roster. And safeties are, there's a difference between like.
Are they not a premium position though? Because I know where you're going with this.
Yeah,
I could name a lot of teams in the NFL right now that value that position as a premium position. One of them being in our division, Pittsburgh with Minka Fitzpatrick. Another one, the Chargers. Another one, Atlanta Falcons. There's tons.
What about Detroit?
Tons of teams.
What about Detroit with Xavier?
There's tons of teams around the league that value safeties the same way they value a good tier 2 receiver or really good running. Like, they value you need good defenders in the pass game. This is a pass-driven NFL league now. You have to have good safeties. I to your point, and I don't mean to like take over the conversation.
No, you're
but
fine.
They really should have valued that more, because we've played musical safeties almost as much as we played musical tight ends the last few years.
Yeah. So the whole thing is you have Jesse Bates, you have a guy that's literally an all-pro. You let him go, but you don't replace him. But the amount of money you spend to replace him is more than if you just paid him. For one, you drafted him, but then you have multiple draft picks to replace him, and then you bring in multiple. There's 3 different players the Bengals got in free agency to come back between Von Bell, Geno Stone, and was the other dude, Nick Scott. Nick Scott, whoever it was. You bring him in. There's 3 different. That's almost 6 players you bring in to one guy.
Did we have any dead money with Nick Scott? Because he signed a 3-year, $12 million contract with the Cincinnati Bengals, and then we cut him after a year, and then signed Geno Stone to what, a 2-year, $13 million deal?
I'm sure we have
Yeah.
dead money.
Plus
I
the
don't
money
know
we're
if we
paying
had dead
Jordan
money.
Battle, plus the money we're paying Von Bell. I'd love to know what that all
Well,
adds
what
up
about
to,
Dax
because it's
Hill?
got to be pretty close.
We drafted Dax Hill as the replacement. That's a first-round draft pick. And, it really sucks that Dax Hill just tore his ACL. He's
So
an
you've got a
athlete.
first and a third and
In a
many,
six.
many millions of dollars, and a six and many, many millions of dollars to replace Jesse Bates. And we pretty much, minus the guaranteed money, which I guarantee you was the issue with Cincinnati, we end up spending more money and more draft capital. Well, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I don't think
they think they're smart.
I don't think we spent more money on replacing Jesse Bates. I mean, from
Jesse Bates, we offered Jesse Bates
14.
I think we offered
16.
him the same.
I thought we offered him 16.
That's what.
Yeah,
he
I
got.
thought we offered him the same, but the guarantee.
I thought he got
the
18 from Atlanta, and we offered 16.
Let's find out.
I would love. I don't know, but I thought that was the
impression
figure,
we got.
and I know the guaranteed money from Atlanta was higher. But either way, if we're talking about $3 to $4 million a year, to me that's peanuts when we're talking about a total salary cap to retain an All-Pro player.
But the issue is, you end up having 5 or 6 of those guys. Like the issue is, if you say, oh, it's 3 or 4 million, it's 3 or 4 million, it's 3 or 4 million, you have to eventually not say that somewhere.
But Chris, when you're rolling over 12 million a year to 15 million a year, a few million, what's it matter? You're going to be there. You know what I mean? Like the Bengals roll over constantly around 15 million. So like,
well, they got nothing for him, dude. They got literally nothing for him after paying the franchise tag. So like, the move made no sense. It really doesn't in hindsight.
So
it's going to happen.
Jesse Bates contract, 4 years, $64,020,000. So it's 16 million a year, technically 16,005,000 per year.
That's a bargain. That's a bargain compared to what we're doing.
I don't know. I don't know if it's a bargain if he's the 5th paid safety in the league. You know what I mean?
It's not a bargain when he's the number 1 safety in the league right now.
Okay,
for $16 million.
Look what we're paying Dax Hill. Dax Hill, a first-round draft pick. That's a lot of money, and it's a huge like risk to go and get. And then you have a 3rd-round draft pick. We know the Bengals value their draft picks, which is crazy. They had 10 picks. They didn't trade up to do anything with those 10 picks because they value them so much. But they bust and bust and bust. We have the smallest scouting department in the league. Not only that, they literally live off high-end draft picks. In 2021, who'd we hit on? Jamar, a 5th-round pick. Obviously, we're drafting Jamar. Then we got lucky with hitting on a kicker. That's it in 2021. But what do? We actually spent in free agency. We spent the year before on DJ Reader. And then we made a good trade that got BJ Hill. And we had Larry Ogunjobi. Like, when you spend money and you actually work, there's a difference. And what's Jamar thinking? Like right now, he didn't get paid. They had the all-season negotiations. T's in the same boat. Look, our offense is rolling. It's doing great. But if you don't hit on your draft picks, okay, that's, I guess, I don't know. You don't hit on them, but you have 10 picks. Move up to target players that you think are going to be like quality dudes when you're not hitting late.
I mean, yeah, that's one thing that we've like harped on is how they chose 10 guys and how they all made the roster is just wild to me. Like
that's insane. It's insane. You could there's no way I was going to see them picking 10 guys from that draft.
Bad teams don't usually take 10 picks unless it's like 2 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders and 3 third-round. Like, bad teams don't usually make 10 picks. So, like, the fact that the Bengals made 10 picks, didn't move up, and we're just like, yeah, I think it's probably going to be good. We just need to be really good at resource management, especially because, like, there were safeties available. You know what I mean? If you if you're moving Dax, like you bring in Geno, like obviously the league doesn't feel that great about him because we got him for 2 years, $6.5 million. Like, so that is just a wild, sorry, it's a wild thing. But like you guys are saying about bringing in DJ Reader and bringing in Chidobe Awuzie, Chidobe Awuzie's deal was 3 years, $21 million. Like, he did not sign a big ticket deal. He was not let's go and get the guy in free agency. He was like hey, the first wave of free agency is over. Hey, like the second wave of free agency is almost over. This guy's still out there. Here's what we're offering, and he took it. Like, the Bengals are going to get guys like that, but only when the money is right. Like, they weren't going to sign Chidobe Awuzie to a $10 million a year deal. They just weren't. And when they went and got DJ Reader, they paid him $12 or $13 million.
They paid him top tier money for DJ Reader.
Yeah,
that was top tier money.
That's what I'm saying. Is they went out and got the guy who was like the best at the position guy. Like, who was the guy this year in free agency at safety that was that guy? Because
I'm trying to think of the dude that just went to he literally just went to the Lions and he had, I think, 5. He's had an interception in every game.
DJ Reader. No, I'm just kidding.
No, yeah, it wasn't DJ.
I know who you're talking about because they were talking about it on the broadcast. He's had an interception in every game.
So I know we're talking a lot about free agency though. Why aren't we talking about trades? Like, we had 10 picks. Why wouldn't we make a splash with some draft capital? We had 2 third-round picks. You know how much, like, Devontae Adams is meriting a second right now. Like, a lot of teams put a lot of emphasis on these picks in the first 3 rounds. I don't know why they didn't dish that extra 3rd-round pick.
And we got a guy that we don't even play. They won't even play Burton. Like,
no, and you could have dished that pick in a trade, in my opinion. It would have been smarter. Hindsight right now, it would have been smarter either to trade T. Higgins along with a 3rd rounder for a really, really top tier guy, or re-sign T and leverage that 3rd for another top tier guy. I don't see any reason that they can't go out and get a guy like Mason Crosby for a 2nd or a 3rd round pick and pay that guy.
Max Crosby
from the
Max
Ravens,
Crosby.
right?
If he gets
Mason the kicker. Yeah, let's trade out.
Whatever. They're all the same.
Tony's really salty about that missed field goal.
Max Crosby, I'm pretty sure is going to get like multiple 1st-round picks.
No, he's not.
I don't think so.
As a pass rusher,
I think a 2nd-round pick would get him.
He's not getting any higher than a 2nd-round pick for him because they're going to pay him a lot of money. There's no way.
Yeah, I think a 2nd's fair. But if you bring in Max Crosby, but look at Sam Hubbard's deal, dude. He's getting paid so much for, he was oversigned. You get a dude like Max Crosby, or
he's getting paid.
Max Crosby. Now you're messing me up. Huh?
He's like the 35th highest defensive end in the league.
Hold on, let me look it up. I don't care. You're not gonna glaze me with one game that Sam Hubbard had that was really great. It's not going to take away from the fact that he's the worst in the league in pressures right now, and his average separation is over 4 yards.
He's never been a pass rusher,
right? But I don't want him.
Are we going to grade guys on like everybody should be brought in to do a role, right? Because if you have all guys that are pass rushers, guess what's going to happen? You're never going to stop the run. If you have all guys that are run stuffers, you're never going to stop the pass. So what they have
that for Lou Anarumo, who doesn't know how to rotate his players.
He doesn't have anybody to rotate at this point.
And whose issue is that? The front office.
That's
what I'm saying. It's a multitude of failures at multiple levels.
Yes,
like you don't use Sam Hubbard as a 3-down guy. He's not that. To your point, he's never been that guy. Yeah.
So who else goes in? That's the
right
question.
Now.
Yeah.
Right now, I would have put in Osai 2 weeks ago.
Osai has been playing. I would put him 60% of the snaps every game.
It should be more than that because Sam's only a run stopper at very best. And that's the one game out of the entire year and the last year and a half that I've seen him play really, really well.
Well, it was the safety that he had. Now, he did make the tackle on Derrick Henry. That's fine. And he should get props on it. But it was he had nobody chipping, blocking. It was a wide open tackle. And Sam did play. I'm not calling for people's heads, but you need to have a restructuring. It's
making $10 million a year, dude.
The whole thing.
He's on a $40 million contract.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a-
like 35th
it's a
in the
fun-
league. It's not even a top. Like it's crazy to just say, oh yeah, just because it's $10 million. Like there are literal pass rushers out here making $30 million a year. There have been 8 or 9 guys in the last 2 years that have signed 22 or 23 plus $1 million per year deals.
But wouldn't you have rather have cut Sam Hubbard before that extension and not even had to sign Geno Stone or Nick Scott and just paid Jesse his money and then
That's
roll
what
with
I'm
those
gonna ask
guy and
that
draft
never
another
would have
guy?
happened. That never would have happened. The
It never
Bengals
would
had
have.
their
Well,
numbers.
it wouldn't happen because Cincinnati doesn't want to pay Jesse $36 million guaranteed like Atlanta did. That's why.
The
It comes
Bengals,
down to guaranteed money. They
the
would never do
Bengals
it.
had their amount and had what they're willing to pay him. And the Bengals have done contracts different than every other team in the league. Like it's not a surprise. It's not a shock. We can't say we have to operate based on how these other teams are operating because we know like we can hope that they get there and we can hope that they operate differently, but we can also operate from we can understand that they don't do that.
Yeah.
But also what happens is when Cincinnati signs you to a contract, there's a 95% chance that money is guaranteed anyways, because the only way that they're releasing you is if you're a giant piece of crap. And to be totally honest, Pac-Man Jones, I love Pac-Man Jones. So I want
Adam.
So I want this to come from like a really like place that I want everybody to know that I am a Pac-Man Jones fan and I love the passion that he played for the game. He made some really dumb off the field mistakes. He made some really like questionable decisions and we kept him around. And he wasn't even like an all-star. He wasn't a great like player throughout all of the time that he was here. Like there were times that he was a good player. There were times he was a good punt returner, not that great on defense. But like what I'm saying is if the players understand that different teams do things differently, because that is inherent to anything, that different people, different organizations are going to do things differently, then people are going to understand, hey, like there are a lot of agents that like to deal with the Bengals for that exact fact. Like, hey, if the Bengals sign you to a 3-year contract, the likelihood of you making it through that 3-year contract, if the coach changes, if your coordinator changes, is still high. If other teams do that, like you got another team that has a super high payroll, they don't care about dead money. They don't care about spending money wherever. Some guys, oh, we signed you to a 4-year deal, but you're cut. Carolina, their owner is rich as crap. He signed Von Bell to that, 3-year, $18 million, 3-year, $18.5 million deal. Cut him after year 1. Cincinnati got him for veteran league minimum, and Carolina's still paying him all that money. Like Michael Johnson years ago went down to Tampa, signed a 5-year huge ticket deal. Guess what happened? The coach changed, the defensive coordinator changed. After 1 year, he got cut. Guess where he came? Right back to Cincinnati, where players know, hey, if you sign a deal here, the likelihood of you making it through to the end of that deal, all you have to do is give your best and like not be a huge financial like anchor, then you're good to go. Like the fact that like the guys that we can't sign all happen to have the same agent, like how much is it worth to Jesse Bates to play for a winning team? Because he's going to go to like the Falcons, they've overperformed and they're not going to do anything in the playoffs. Like the same thing is going to happen with T if he chooses to sign a huge ticket deal somewhere else. He's going to leave. He's going to go sign for the freaking maximum that he can make in Carolina or somewhere. And he's going to have Bryce Young throwing him a ball that's 4 yards out of bounds, and he's never going to have a chance to make the good play. And he's going to lose his love of football. And instead of playing for 12 years, because he's catching passes from Joe Burrow and he's being held accountable and he's like keeps the fire going because there's always a chance that you can win. Like there is value to that. There is inherent value to that. There's not quantitative data that says like, we're going to like, oh, it's going to be X million or X this or X that. But like Jesse Bates probably has a higher cost of living in Atlanta than he would have had in Cincinnati. Like, so
a smart agent will bring that up, but I think there's, not to cut you off, but I think there's a good balance that you could strike between hometown deals, which I think Cincinnati's notorious for, and guaranteeing money and securing those top guys, those foundations on both sides of the ball. I'm not seeing that from Cincinnati, and I never really have outside of the quarterback position and maybe a receiver. They tend to shave the corners on a lot of deals where they can to round out what they feel are their guys for those for what you're trying to say, right? And I get the entire premise of what you're talking about with Cincinnati fulfilling their deals. I see that a lot, and it's a great thing that an organization like Cincinnati should do. They stand behind their deals, they pay their guys. The result of that, though, sometimes can be where we have guys here a couple years too long. They're not really performing, but they're veteran guys, and the coaches lean on them. I see that here and there where they're just not performing at the level that you'd want to see a professional football player playing at, but we're still fulfilling that deal.
So
I just think there's
what's the difference in guaranteed money? If we sign the guy to that deal, we guarantee him all this money, and then we get rid of him. Now we're paying him that money. And
I'm saying you should guarantee money where people are worth it. In this case, it all goes right back to Jesse Bates, and I'm assuming T. Higgins right now, because both of those guys are proven. Both of those guys showed their worth at the highest levels, both in the Super Bowl and the playoffs, the AFC Championship game. Both are captain. Jesse Bates was a captain. T. Higgins, the production is off the charts.
Tony, not to cut you off, but Jesse Bates wasn't just a captain and T. Higgins, but drafted by the Bengals. So continue.
I just think you need to put some weight in. You need to put some weight in those anchors of your team. I don't see Cincinnati doing that outside the quarterback position. That's one of the big roots of my frustration with this team.
Mm-hmm. So they just what was the offer to T? We don't know.
What was our last offer to T?
Okay, I don't know what the last offer was,
but none of it has been reported. None of his ask has been reported. We don't know what he's asking for. We don't know what the Bengals offered. We know what the Bengals offered Jamar, and we know that it was $35 million per year.
Yeah.
And there's one other receiver in the league that even has that capability, and it's just.
But the reports on that were that the guarantees were $90 million, which is a really strong offer.
That's a really strong offer.
It's extremely strong, and I'm not discrediting them for that. I'm saying he wanted to have Justin Jefferson's deal plus ever so much. Justin Jefferson is in the range of $110 million guaranteed.
Dude, at a certain point,
that $20 million difference makes a big deal, man. That's all I'm saying.
At a certain point, those guys have to know that the Bengals structure is different. Like Jamar's, his camp is frustrated. He's saying, "Oh, well, the Bengals asked me to come to the table. The Bengals are the ones that initiated these contract talks with me. So I want that little extra. I want this. I want that." And then he's the one that's saying, "I want to wait until Justin Jefferson's over. I want to wait until the CeeDee Lamb deal is over." Like, there's a give and a take to all of these situations, like you're saying. There is a give and a take to all of it. And part of the give is the stuff that you can't put a quantitative value on. Like the fact that the Bengals were willing to give him $35 million a year extension a year before all the other guys got it, I would say that is a big thing. Like you mentioned before multiple times, the Bengals have the only two guys, from the first round that haven't been re-signed,
still.
But the issue is that, like, okay, if Jamar's going to get this deal done 2 years ahead of time instead of 1 year ahead of time, he's getting all that money way earlier than he ever could have gotten it in the past. And in reality,
the thing with that too is you can structure it. Sorry, you can structure it differently if you get the signing done. So if you get done earlier, for one, it's going to be cheaper because every year it rises. But
every year it goes up.
But hold on. If we're talking about every year it goes up and we're talking about it's going to be cheaper, then $35 million should have got the job done, right? The issue is that Jamar is saying, I know what I can make next year, so I'm going to ask for next year's money now. Like, that's what it seems like to me. If he's turning down an $140 million extension over 4 years, that's what the price is this year. So, like, if he's saying, I want more than that, like, that's more than the CeeDee Lamb deal. Like, there's
Chris, I'm not going to disagree with you, but listen, if Jamar sat out for all the way up to week 1, right? So he's sitting out. If you just get the deal done, now the drama's done. You don't have to worry about the drama.
So
It's done.
What's the number? What's the number?
What is
the number that gets the, because you can't just put a blank check on it and say for every guy you just have to pay him.
Look what Jamar just did. Look what Jamar just did. You're going to put a blank check on it next year, and it's going to go up. It's going to go up because look what he just put up almost 200 yards. Like,
so can we give him $45 million a year if that's what he's asking for?
Okay, so
$65 million a year if that's what he's asking for.
I'm not saying 60. Is it 65, dude?
Look,
like, listen, I think what we're trying to get at.
I go over the top just to make the point that like there has to be a number like that makes sense for both sides, right? So if Jamar's ask is $40 million a year, like there's a reasonable point where the team can say, no, that's too much, right? Because if he bleeds them for every penny, then every single free agent that they have is going to say, you gave this guy everything that he wanted and more.
But he's a tier 1 receiver. There's only 5 to 6 of them in the league that I would consider.
I agree with you, but there are going to be other tier 1 players. Is my point. There are going to be.
But the point is that they haven't paid those tier 1 guys historically.
That's the whole quarterback point.
Position.
So let's go.
That's the whole point.
Again,
they're not paying a market rate right now.
No,
so they signed for a $22 million extension. That's not market rate.
He signed it, and they basically told him to go F off, and that's what he's doing.
They didn't tell him to go F off. They said, "Hey, do you want to stay here for one more year for $22 million?" And he said, "Yeah, I sure do." And then a month later, he said, "I probably should have tried to get more years on this." Like,
no, that's his agent messing up.
That's
dude.
His agent.
The Bengals should, dude. And Trey signing the deal.
Get as much as humanly possible for their guys. No team can afford that. Like.
But
Chris,
we've sat well under the cap every year, dude, and they do that on
every
purpose.
year. That's the problem.
Every year we're under the cap. We were under the cap $50 million last year, dude.
Every single year we roll over this money.
So yeah, but my point is you can't just say we're $15 million under the cap. Here was our offer to Jamar. Let's add $15 million to that.
I'm not saying to do that.
You can't say okay,
but don't. So we're gonna use that cap money, dude. Use the cap money, and then if you guys are over the cap, convert some people's contracts to signing bonuses. That way you can relieve that cap. They don't do that. They never do that.
Right now we're arguing two different
points.
Right now we're arguing two different points. I'm not arguing that the Bengals should hold this money. I'm not arguing that at all. I think they should spend all the way up, but I don't think that you can do that with every player. Because then you're going to run into problems where you can't keep guys. You're going to run into problems where you have to trade guys. You're going to run into problems. Like at the end of the day, every player has a value that they should be able to get. And I'm just saying that Jamar should have taken that $35 million a year 4-year extension. That's what I don't think that it's reasonable for him to say, I actually want $37.5 million a year. I wanted the number to be 150. I wanted the guarantees to be this. I wanted the guarantees to be that. Because at the end of the day, I believe that him making the second most money in the league as a wide receiver should be good enough for him to sign that extension. Like
I get that. But if you're Jamar, bro, if you're Jamar, you're signing it early, right? The Bengals came to him. So that's what's reported is the Bengals came to him for this deal. Now, if you're coming to him, you need to come to him with what you're expecting to pay and then some. Like that's the problem. They went to him and they dealt with the backlash of it. And then Jamar, he steps back. So I can understand his point of view. But if you're talking about we don't know what he's really asking, but if just like T. Higgins, if T. Higgins was asking for what's the dude for the Colts, Pittman.
Oh, Michael Pittman.
You're asking for Mike Pittman's money, which was $75 million, like $50 million guaranteed.
It was like 27.5 over 4.
He's worth it. He's worth that completely.
So give him that money. Give him that money, and then you have Jamar. You don't that money. If you sign him now, there's so much you can do to rearrange and restructure. just do it. And I get what you're saying, Chris, with the Bengals, when they go and they sign people to deals, the guarantees are not, say the guarantees 30% of their contract, but they're going to fulfill that contract. The Bengals always fulfill their contracts, 92% of the time. So with Jamar, like I get where the frustration's at, like just get it done, but the frustration should come from the front office for bringing it up. They were the ones who brought it up.
Right, but if he's the one that's saying, let's wait until after Justin Jefferson's done, okay, Justin Jefferson's done,
but they had no reason to bring it up.
But if Jamar's camp is the one that says, let's wait until Justin Jefferson's contract is done, and his contract gets done 2.5 weeks before the season starts, how is that the Bengals' fault that Jamar said, I want to wait until CeeDee Lamb's done? Like,
well, where's the Bengals? The Bengals are held responsible for not for even diving into it because they weren't even.
So what's the number that Jamar was asking for? Because like if me and you were having a negotiation, we both have a number in mind that is like we think that this is reasonable for us, right? We think that this is what I should be able to give you. This is what you should you're hoping to get from me. Like we both have a number in mind there. That's fine. So what is that number is my question. Because everybody keeps saying, you got to pay him, you got to pay him, you got to pay him. Okay, so how much is too much? So if Jamar's ask is, I want $40 million a year because that's what I believe next year's money is going to be, then like, is that too much? Is it not?
Okay, but you're not hearing much. Okay, listen to what I'm saying. Because I get your point. I 100% understand your point. But where I'm coming from is the Bengals reached out to Jamar. So the Bengals reach out to Jamar for this deal, which is fine. But you're coming under the understanding of next year is Jamar's real price, right? Because you're doing a year earlier than Justin Jefferson. So really you're talking about now, but it's next year's price.
Unless he breaks his leg.
That's what you got to take in
some kind of ankle injury. Unless that, like the same reason that Jamar.
Then why even reach out?
The same reason because they tried to give him $35 million. But
why do that? Why do it to cause conflict? Like
they didn't
that's
do it
my
to cause
point.
conflict. But like if I'm coming to Jamar as the front office and I say, hey, we want to try to get a deal done with you, and then Jamar says, that's great. I want to wait until these other guys are done. Like, did they know that going in? Because if they knew it going in, then you're 100% right that the front office, they're a bunch of dinguses, they're a bunch of idiots, and like they do hold some of the blame here. I'm in no way absolving them of blame and in no way saying this is all Jamar's fault or all Jamar's camp's fault. Absolutely not. I have been on record on here since we've had this conversation. I think that they could have gone higher than the 35 million and given him the 36 or 37 because like you guys are saying, what's an extra $1 or $2 million when you're getting it done the year early? You can spread it out over a 6-year period instead of over a 5-year period. I agree with that. But at the end of the day, what people aren't saying is what is that number? Because that's not like a theoretical question. That's not like a pie in the sky, like, oh, well, how much is too much, air quotes. It's like, no, that's a question that can be answered. And for me, I'm saying like, if he was asking for 40 million, that's too much. I'm not giving him that.
Okay, well, Chris, let me ask you this. Let me ask you and Tony both this. Next year, Jamar's up for contract. You let T go because I think we're all under the understanding
we can't let him
happen.
Go for nothing. We
so,
can't let him go for nothing.
But it's going to happen. At this point, it's going to happen.
I'm franchise tagging him. Like, and the Bengals still have that option, and it's going to be far cheaper than anything on the market. Like,
it's going to be $26 million next year.
So, that's let me get further. Let me get further with this question. Let me get further with the question. So, the Bengals more than likely will let T go. More than likely. It's not what we're going to do. It's what the Bengals are going to do. More than likely, he will go for nothing. Now, they might try to tag and trade. That could be a possibility, which would, and I think we could agree that's a pretty smart decision to do. But Jamar, long term, you're going to sign Jamar. Like he's going to be signed. So the whole thing is, why not just get it done? Because like you said, Chris, the price will go up. It's going to go up. Jamar, like, why not just get it done and negate the distraction? I also want to say, thanks to everyone that's listening. let's settle down. We got quite a few listeners in here. We got a lot of good guys. Tyler Bowles and Ross. These guys are always commenting and giving us feedback, and we definitely appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead. You don't have to subscribe, but maybe just give us a follow on Twitter or subscribe back to us. It's nice just because the interactions. Go ahead and interact with us. Leave us comments because we try our best to post them up here.
Do you mind if I bring something up, Dusty?
Yeah, bring it up.
So Ross brings up big changes needed, to say the least. In my opinion, some of the biggest changes that this team could benefit from, maybe not right now, but I think some would say that. I'm going to be the first one to say I think there needs to be a coaching change, both at the head coach, on the defensive side, and I would even consider the offensive side a little bit. But I really like what I'm seeing out of the offense, excluding the late game play calling. I would love to see it.
So that's what we need to dive into.
Yeah, and that's I'm trying to tee that topic off right now. I'm just going to kind of tee it off with my two people that I would target right now. I would target Robert Saleh and I would target Mike Vrabel right off the bat. What are your thoughts?
Saleh has now Vrabel. I like Vrabel, but Saleh seems more of a dude that he could go into that like DC role and not like push back and forth, almost like how we did with Darren Simmons, and he was kind of like the assistant coach. He's assistant head coach or whatever that role was. I feel like he could come in and he'd be cool with that. I don't know. I don't think Vrabel would be as cool with that situation.
The reason I say Mike Vrabel is because he has the ability to head coach. And I brought this up on Twitter this week. My opinion is if you were to bring somebody in like that, who's a much larger personality. Now, Saleh has historically produced great defenses in every single defensive coordinator job he's had. He's like a D'Amico Ryans to me. He's a really, really good defensive coordinator, not so much a head coach. Mike Vrabel, on the other hand, if you were to get him, and I'm aware to all the Twitter lawyers right now that are saying he's a special assistant to the Browns, I don't really care. Okay, if you were to bring in Mike Vrabel, he's the kind of guy that you can promote to head coach, because I don't think the seat is going to get any colder for Zach Taylor, no matter what he does this year.
Now, the thing is with Tennessee, remember when he was at Tennessee, the offense, they didn't have the quarterback. But overall, their offense was pretty studded out. Offensive line, their defense was great.
Like defense is nasty, dude.
And that's what you think under a Vrabel defense. But Robert Saleh, that dude, I just feel like his chemistry would mesh good. Like overall, this is what we need to get into. Zach Taylor, he coached a good game all the way up. Look at when the Bengals got the ball back before half. We go down, we push the ball, we score. That was great. That was nice. Then we come back out, we score again. That was awesome out of halftime. Then we go to overtime, and he plays like a straight. You know what I want to say. I'm not going to say it, but
he tightens up. You can just say it like this. He tightens up when it comes to making your money. When it's time to make your money, he tightens up.
Well, this is one of the things that I mentioned before, like even going all the way back to last season, is that Zach Taylor doesn't know if he wants to be conservative or aggressive. Like one of the reasons that Dan Campbell for the Lions, one of the reasons that people like love him, and I get it, he's kind of like some people love him, some people think he's an idiot, but like
his personality's high. He's got a.
But you always know that he's going to be aggressive, right? So like, there's no guessing. Like, did we make the right decision? It's not like should I have gone more conservative there? Should I have been aggressive there? It's we're aggressive. The only question to ask afterwards is, did it work or did it not work? Because there are going to be times when it didn't work, but you're going to be able to live with that because you're going to be able to say, this is who we are. Who is in the conservative aggressive? Like,
my problem is Joe played such a good game. Like, I get he took the interception, he took a sack, and then you go into overtime and you're playing not to lose. That's such a loser mentality, man. Like,
But we haven't even seen it more. We've seen it more than once. He had this very same
San Francisco,
conversation
everyone's
in
talked about it.
previous post-game conversations. The point, and I think we're all in agreement here. The point is, I don't feel, you guys definitely don't, I know you don't, that Zach Taylor has not learned from his mistakes. He's the same guy he was in 21, and he's the same guy in 24. And if you're going to keep strutting him out there, you're going to get the same result because he doesn't know what he wants to be when it comes time to make his money. What are we getting here? Marvin Lewis in new form.
The problem with that is he threw Joe under the bus. Every
didn't take accountability
player that you listen to their press conferences, because I listen to everybody.
Yeah.
Jamar, what'd Jamar say? I ran a shitty route. Excuse my language. That's what Jamar said. I ran a shitty route. Joe said, I thought Jamar, I could have threw the ball better, whatever. Evan McPherson, he said he didn't even talk about the snap, but when he did, he basically said, I got to put it through. Rakow, he didn't throw the snap off. He didn't talk about the snap, which the snap, was it horrible? It wasn't exactly horrible, but he's a rookie. Like, stuff happens. That's why you take the snap on third down. So if it is bad, guess what? You cover it up. You lay on it. That's what any smart coach does. It's plain and simple. And not just that, try to get 10 yards, get a first down. You ran the ball. Joe checks out of it. What happens? Zach Taylor says, we had a pass play on first down and Joe checked out of it. What kind of person, like,
it doesn't take into account second and third down. And third down, they had 9 on the line. They had 9 on the line on third down, dude. You passed the ball.
And not only that, but another comment that he's kind of throwing Joe under the bus, which is like, this might like go unnoticed, is he said like, well, like, what if we take a sack?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't trust Joe?
You don't trust him to
You don't trust, dude. Cincinnati is one of the best pass pro lines in the league right now. That's just not reading the room, in my opinion. You don't know your team if you're going to say shit like that.
Yep.
You don't know your team.
Well, that's where I'm getting with all this. It's sickening. OBJ Jr., so Orlando Brown Jr. is playing probably his best football right now. He's playing great. The offensive line is playing way above average. The best offensive line Joe Burrow's ever had. And the offense is doing their part. Now, Zach Taylor, to defend him a little bit, if he's the play caller right now, they're playing good ball. So I don't know if there's a transition. Hey, we went to overtime. Dan Pitcher, you're out of here. I'm calling the plays. Like, we're not taking the team out field goal range because we trust.
Zach still calls his own plays, correct? Pitcher just.
I'm assuming he does.
Yeah, I believe so.
So Zach called those plays. Let's just set that precedent right
now. So Zach did. Honestly, he did a great game all the way up until overtime, dude. If you just get one first down, I'm cool with that. But his clock management going into halftime was great. Like, it was really good. He used his clock management good going into half. We score, we come out, we score. But at the end of the game, he played so scared. It was sickening. It was like, dude, you got gifted this. Lamar Jackson literally handed you the game. Lamar's going off the field. He's covering his face up. It's just it's like, bro, what? Don't play scared. Take and win it, dude. Okay, listen, I'll ask both of you this. If Joe throws the ball and let's say it's first down, we run it. I'm cool with running kind of on first down. Joe checks out of it. They run it. Second down, Joe throws it for a gain of 4. Just a little slant or something, gain of 4. Third down, they say, hey, let's get this first down. Let's make it a little reasonable. Let's drain the clock a little bit. And Joe throws an interception. Are you going to be as mad as throwing an interception? Or are you going to be more mad that Evan McPherson gets this bobble snap from 53 yards that you take on fourth down instead of third down? That's where I'm at.
I'm 100% with you on that. Go ahead, Tony.
So just so we're clear, Cincinnati had a 74% chance of winning, 74.5% chance of winning in that situation plus territory.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the Ravens knew that they were on death's door. You got to close that one out. You have a first down and plus territory inside the 40-yard line. You can't go 3 straight runs. You know they're coming after the run. Okay.
They had 9 guys in the box for like
They had 9 guys in the box for 3 straight plays. I think you got to pass it, or even at the very least, man, run a screen and get it inside the 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think in that
Well-
situation, you can know that they're going to blitz. Like you can know that they're sending pressure because one, they're trying to knock you back further out of field goal range. They're trying to get a sack. They're trying to get mess up the snap, mess up the exchange, like tackle a guy in the backfield, like all these things. They're trying to get there, and they're willing to like take that chance because they have to, because they feel like if they don't take that chance, you're never gonna like they're going to just give up the game. But they're not, even at that point in the game when it's a pretty reasonable, like 53 yarder is not what a 53 yarder used to be, 5, 6, 10 years ago. But at the same time, a 53 yarder is a 53 yarder.
And it was windy. It was a really windy day.
And in Cincinnati, Evan McPherson has had the most trouble. I don't know if you guys remember that game like 3 years ago, maybe, when Mason Crosby and Evan McPherson missed the combined like 6 field goals.
I do remember that.
Because down off the river there, that wind gets whipping and it enters into that little like
it's weird. It swirls
over the south end zone. It enters in, and it's like kickers miss long field goals there. So like you can say, oh yeah, he practices here, oh whatever the case, but like a 53 yarder is a hard kick to make. Like,
and guess what? Justin Tucker, who's struggled, what'd he do? They go down the field and he kicks a field goal to send them to overtime.
But he kicked it in a manner that he knew the wind was going to take it. If you remember,
you saw it, yeah, that was a crazy kick. All props to Justin Tucker, and honestly, Lamar. All props to Lamar. Like Lamar played a hell of a game. Like now Lou threw everything at him that he could. We the coverages, everything. He had people winding up. There was 8, 9 people in the box. They're fading out. He was sending rushes. Lou was doing a lot.
That was the first game I saw him do that, though. That's the first game here this year that we've seen him go back into years past where we know he loves to load the box and then check out of that post snap.
And
the first game I've seen him do it.
Coverage.
Yeah, that's the first.
And what happened when he dropped Sam? What happened when he dropped Sam? He dropped Sam, and they score a touchdown. Which there was nobody even on the right side of the field. If you're watching through the broadcast, Sam was the closest person that he dropped back, and Sam was completely unaware of this crosser. I don't know if it was Zay Flowers. I think it might have been Zay Flowers, or it might have been the other receiver they took in the first round a couple years ago. But Rashad Bateman, and he scores, and it was just like, dude, I get it, but really, is Sam the guy that's probably one of the least athletic linemen that you have at this point?
Lou Anarumo, like you gotta love the guy, but his like love of dropping defensive ends into like coverage is just wild. Like
it's wild.
He the only time that he ever runs blitzes and stuff, he always drops a lineman out, and like he's actually still only sending 4. He's just dropping a lineman, and like I can't remember. I guess maybe there's been a handful of times when a defensive end has like dropped into coverage and had a PBU or something like that. But like, of all the years that I've been watching, Bengals football, and even in these last, what's Lou been the DC for 5 years now? 6 years?
Like 6 years, yeah.
I can remember 0 times when a defensive lineman dropped back and like made the play. So like, it's weird. He's got this thing.
I just don't think he's working. I don't think he has the personnel necessarily that works with his scheme. I think that's the big issue, and so that's a disconnect between the coaches and the front office. One of the comments we received was about how the Steelers always have a winning season, yet they always somehow figure it out. That comes down to ownership and front office. They have a really good scouting department. They have a pretty decent ownership, and they have a really good front office. And you can fight. You can argue with a wall on that one, Chris. I know you're going to disagree. I think the Steelers are an example of a good front office with a very average head coach.
Their coaching through the years is what gets them over the line. Like,
well, they have stability. They have stability. They don't fire guys.
Right, but it's not the ownership. Like the ownership, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get a couple players, but like every year we look at the Steelers roster and we're like, dude, these guys suck. And every year, it's not like at the end of the year we're like, man, Pittsburgh's a really good team. They actually outplayed expectations. At the end of the year, we're like, all of Pittsburgh's wins were like 19-16, 13-7. TJ Watt had 17 incredible plays, and like the offense did just enough, and they bled the clock down, and they made it a.
Does that come down to coaching?
Yes.
That's coaching. So
yeah, but it's not front office.
Well, I think they do have a better scouting department. I think they have a better front office than we do, because I think they do get good production out of guys that they draft, whereas we miss on a lot of guys. One thing that I don't want to shift gears here, but one thing that I brought up, and I think we're talking about coaching a lot here. One of the things that came up, and we talked about on Twitter a little bit, was where you saw Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow, where the ref was blocking the snap and everyone was kind of just sitting in the air like, what's going on? That came down to the Bengals subbing late and then the defense being able to counter sub late. And the ref isn't going to get out of the way until that substitution on the defense is completed. I saw both of them with their hands in the air, but the ref got out of the way in just enough time for them to snap the ball.
I think so. Here's a hot take, and it might not be a hot take, but like I think that rule is going to be changed this year. That they're gonna there's gonna be something that they do about it
where they have to sub in a certain amount of time, where they can't sub late.
Yeah. Because there have been like multiple games, not just Bengals games, but there have been like other games that I'm watching when like teams have to take timeouts or they take delay of game penalties.
They do it in college, and they do it to Ohio State all the time. I watch it. Ryan Day likes to sub, and they do the same thing. I
think that's one of these trends that teams are like, wow, we can really take advantage of this, because year after year they've been like pushing the envelope. Okay, how fast do we actually have to send the guys out? You know, because so let's say they sub at 12 seconds. All right, cool. Well, if the defense takes 3 seconds or even 2 seconds to figure out what the offensive personnel is that's coming out, and then they say, all right, you come off, you come back on, and then there's 4, 5, 6 seconds where the guys are jogging on the field because they're obviously not sprinting onto the field just to like be thrown directly into a play out of breath. So, but there's going to have to be something done about that, because you can't keep like allowing the substitutions to determine.
Well, you can't sub within 10 seconds. That's how you dish it out. You can't sub within 10 seconds on the play clock.
Even 10 seconds would be. There's going to have to be something where they're like, I don't know. I mean,
it's only a 25-second play clock in the NFL. And in college, you get what, 35 or
40, 35 or 40.
Yeah, so you get a much larger.
Did you guys see I think it was a third down. It was a third down in the red zone, and the referee did not move out of the way.
That's what we're talking about right now.
Sorry. Yeah,
I defend. So I don't like defending the referees, but I defended the referee on Twitter. I think you saw it, Dusty. It's because he got out of the way with just enough time, but yet Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor are still standing there like this with their arms in the air. You guys got to execute, man. That's football. Take the timeout.
I think that it's hard to say.
They scored on that.
They did score, but that was after the fact that they got a delay of game.
Yep.
That's a coaching thing. You need to either take your timeout or run the play and get like that's football, man.
You know who scored that? It was T. Higgins. And if you look at the stats, what Jamar puts up with T. Higgins there. Now, the offense, I'm going to move to like a recency thing, what's going on right now. With T. Higgins, when he's healthy, when he's playing for the Bengals, Jamar plays outstanding. He does.
Yep.
When T. Higgins is there without Jamar, T still puts up great numbers. Now, I'm not saying sign T over Jamar or any of this, but there's a conversation to be had. If T. Higgins can perform when he's and he can stay healthy, the Bengals have options, is what I'm saying. Now, right now, other teams know this. We're still in a trade window. T. Higgins for a defensive player, you guys know how much I love T. I love T. I think with this offense, we have a real good shot at still making the playoffs and making a push. If the defense, for one, we got to get healthy. Now, Dax Hill, he just went down with an ACL. That's a big problem because he's probably our most athletic cornerback. Maybe not most athletic, but he's literally up there with DJ Turner, but his size is better than Turner's. So overall, he's probably going to be a better player for us. And then you have just everyone's kind of coming back. We don't know what's going to happen there. And Rankins could come back and he could be a beast. He could do really well. But are we just going to let T walk, man? We let Jesse Bates walk. We got a 3rd round comp pick. We had 10 picks total. We took Burton. Burton's not in. We're not using Burton. We're not using him at all. When we did use him, he made a big play. Then we have McKinley Jackson. McKinley Jackson did play some snaps for us when he came back and was healthy. But what's the dude's name from Texas? Sweat. Sweat comes in, and Sweat played. I've watched him play, and he's made some plays, and he looks way more athletic than what I thought he was when he played for Texas. Why not trade up? You have these 2 picks. Why not trade up and get Sweat and get Jenkins? Now, we kind of lucked into the Jenkins pick, I think, but you had 2 dudes that you could have picked that would have solidified that interior defensive line. You didn't do that, right? Jesse Bates, you get a 3rd round pick for him. Would you have got higher if you traded him? I don't know what you would have got. I would prefer to keep Jesse Bates, honestly. But
I'll just tie a bow on this right now. I know what you're trying to say. I'll just tie a bow on this right now. And I've said it before. I'll say it again. Sign Chase and T, because the drop off in statistics from week 1 and 2 without T Higgins, where we are, it's huge.
bad.
Hey,
it's huge because all you need to do with Jamar Chase is bracket coverage.
Put a number on that though. What's the per year that we can pay both guys? Like,
dude, I don't care. I really don't care because if
I don't
you
care
hit on
because
your
we've got the fifth best offense in the league right now. We're humming with T Higgins. So
and the whole thing is
T1's 35. If T1's 35 million a year next year, like
he's not going to 35. 35.
He's not, but it would have been prudent to sign him for this season for Michael Pittman money. That's where I'm at. Because they've waited and it's made it worse.
I think if they offered him the Michael, like I think that the offer was probably the Michael Pittman, like just under Devonta Smith money, like. Maybe even
he should be above Devonta Smith,
but he's better than Devonta Smith. That's
he should be above. Okay, let's say this. Let's say this.
Devonta Smith gets 30 million, and so now we got to give T 32 million, and now we're going to give Jamar 39 million. Like, what's the number? Like, what is it? Because there has to be a number that you guys. There has to be a number that you guys have in your head that is okay, and it can't just be let's give these guys $85 million a year combined next year, like. My point isn't that I don't want these guys. The Bengals have always done a good job of keeping 2 receivers. I think that is a good thing. I agree with you 100%. I think that we should keep them both. My point is that we still have 3 more years of control of Jamar Chase. We still have 1 more year of control of T Higgins for not as much money as it would cost to throw them both a giant extension next season.
But Chris, so if you look at the tag money, the whole thing is when you could have tagged T, which we did. We tagged T for 21 or 22, whatever it was.
21.
So
it'll be 26 next year.
So call it 22 and 27. Let's say $49 million over 2 years.
So let's just say something crazy. Like I'm going to get crazy with you. T Higgins, I think Pittman got. I know he got 75 million. Yeah. So let's just say you offer T 28 million in 55 guaranteed. I'm cool with that. You give him that, you lock it in. Now, maybe that was the offer. We don't know that, but historically with the Bengals, you don't know. But if you're going to tag T again, you're giving him around 44 to 47 million dollars. Why not just stretch it out just a little bit, man? Give him 50 million. Whatever.
48, and then you're saying for 28 million, you're going to give him 56. Like, that's a huge swing. Like, that's an $8 million swing over 2 years.
And I'm cool with that. If you don't give him that, I'm cool with it. If you have a Jesse Bates and you have a DJ Reader, and I get DJ Reader coming off an injury, but like if you keep those two dudes on defense and you draft because receivers are kind of a dime a dozen. That's what's the thing is. So if you do that, then I'm kind of cool with it. If you know how to manipulate the draft and get a good receiver, I'm cool with it.
So I think like here's why I'm so frustrated with the T. Higgins thing is because I'm not saying we shouldn't pay T. What I'm saying is my guess is his offer probably was higher than Pittman's. I would say that the Bengals probably offered him $27 million with like the guarantees were probably low, but like
that's where the issue is with.
But I don't think he's better than Pittman though. I think he deserves more than Michael Pittman.
Yeah, but you can't. The Bengals, as a small market team, can't throw guarantees around to every single player. Like
not to every single player, but I'll remind you that we're not a poor franchise. The Brown family is in the Forbes top 400. They're worth almost $4 billion. They have. I agree. We're not going to throw it around to every player. 100%. That's stupid. But there's a way to do it in a manner that prioritizes the players that you should keep.
Right, but we should give it to T, and we should give it to Orlando Brown Jr., and we should give it to Trey Hendrickson,
absolutely.
And we should give it to Joe Burrow.
Absolutely. Yes.
We can't do them. Like a lot of
the problem was
that's how the league is driven now, dude. That's we're not the only ones
then
doing
the Bengals are never going to win a Super Bowl if every player thinks like that. But the good news is that
they won't if they don't evolve because that's the way the league is now.
What are we doing here? If we think the Bengals are never going to change, they're always going to suck. They're never going to do anything. They're never going to get good players. The good news is that players aren't all signed by David Mulligetta. Like players, like we haven't had this issue with a guy that's not with Mulligetta or that is not Jamar Chase. And we know that Jamar just sort of like beats to his own drum. Like I love Jamar's personality. I love the fact that he is probably the most confident player that like, and he does it in a way that's not just like arrogant prick. You know what I mean? He does it in a way that like you can tell he's so competitive and that he loves football and that he's out there for his teammates. And like you said earlier, he's willing to take like the responsibility. Like even if that wasn't his fault on the interception to Joe, he's out there telling the media like, I don't even want to deal with these idiots. Like, I just want to fix the problems and get back to football. He's saying, yeah, that's my fault. Put that one on me. You know what I mean? The same way that Joe's saying that. Like, I love Jamar, but the dude beats to his own drum. So he's saying, like, yeah, I'm going to need $40 million. You know what I mean? Like,
but let's listen. We had multiple draft picks that we've let go, right? High-end dudes. We've had people we've brought in. When does the locker room start to swing? Because I think we're going to see that. When you lose,
it's already started to swing, and the fan base started swinging.
So
it's happening.
Do you think Joe Burrow?
The fan base has been saying it for 25 years. So, they're not swinging.
Okay, listen. With Carson Palmer, everyone hated Carson Palmer because he was a quitter. He quit on the team. I don't think Joe's a quitter like that, but Jamar has his attitude slightly different. When's Jamar going to say, I don't want to sign with this team? When's Trey Hendrickson going to say, like, he did come out and it was Trey's fault to sign that deal. Now, it wasn't just his fault. It was his agent's fault. But, like, there's stuff going on, and you see Jesse Bates not getting signed. He comes in, he does all the right things. He plays at a Pro Bowl level, and this team's not paying him. Then you have T. Higgins. The team's not paying him. You have Jamar. You have the contract issues there. You have Joe does get paid, but, like, after a while, you have to know how to manipulate the contracts and the structure, and also not just that, you have to know when to roll over money and when to not. The Bengals consistently roll over money.
Something has to give. Something has to give. Whether it's adding to the scouting department, changing
the scouting
your front
department
office.
Is huge. We have the smallest scouting department in the league.
Right. What I'm saying is that portion right there, that's got to change. or the way you structure your contracts has to change, because
2021.
the same recipe, to your point, Chris, we've been doing the same thing for years and nothing's changed. So what are we doing?
It's
We have never
insanity.
we've
Insanity
never
is
it's insanity, and we've never won a Super Bowl. So in order for those things to happen, you've got to make a change somewhere. Not every
listen.
year is going to be like 2021. I can guarantee you that was lightning in a bottle. It will not return to what it was in 2021. So for every Bengals fan still living in 21 and 22, you can put all that aside. Something has to change now, whether it be with the scouting, the front office, or the way you structure your contracts, or you won't win. We're seeing it live right now on the defense.
Here's the thing.
When we drafted Joe, we had the first pick in every round. When we drafted Jamar, we had the 5th pick in every round. We only hit on Jamar and then Evan McPherson. That's it. That draft was wasted. It was out the window. Now, Miles Murphy, I like Miles Murphy. I like the pick. We're picking late. I get it. Dax Hill, he's played out of position. The defense, the coaching staff, everybody's put him in just shitty positions, man. And that comes to the front office. Then you come into this year. We had 10 picks. You didn't move up. You knew you had a weakness on the defensive front. You did not do anything with 2 third-round picks. So Jesse Bates, you take a third-round guy in Burton, which I like Burton, but you're not even using him. Now you take that. You don't move up. Then you get McKinley Jackson, who unfortunately gets hurt. I get it like that. You don't know what's going to happen, but you take McKinley Jackson, which a lot of people would say was a stretch. And then Eric All. Eric All, I think, was a great pick. I liked the pick. I liked the Newton pick, but there was multiple people I liked more. I liked TJ Tampa a lot. He was there in the 4th, 5th round. We could have moved up and got him. There was a lot of people just outside of like my bias. You could have moved up. There was 10 picks in the draft. You did not do it. The Bengals won't do it. The front office is either cocky or they're really stupid. They're just ignorant and they think they're smarter than everybody else. Sorry, Jesse Bates is leaving. Maybe try to trade him or just sign him, because the money you spend is going to be more. T. Higgins, you're going to lose T. The offense is so much better with T. Now, I get it, like what Chris said. With Orlando Brown Jr., the money that was there, like, or you have to move that money around. But the Bengals wasn't even going to sign Orlando Brown if they didn't reach out to him. So that's the whole thing. Like, if Orlando Brown didn't reach out, the Bengals wouldn't have even got him. They wouldn't even consider it. They were cool rolling out with Jonah Williams and whoever they had at that point. The front office has to be better at evaluating talent. First and foremost, we can all agree with that, because the drafts have not hit. They have to get better at evaluating talent and the making trades that make sense. Now, what trades comes to mind? The only trade that comes to mind is the trade with BJ Hill. That is literally the only trade that you can think of in our lifetimes. We're all the same age, close to the same age, that makes sense. Though, I think, I don't know if we traded for Leon Hall, but there's a couple trades in there. But BJ Hill was a big trade for us. It worked out in our benefit. But that's what's infuriating, is watching the same thing. It's insanity. The insanity definition is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We're not getting different results. Sorry, that was a tangent, but
the thing is, we're like, you're putting all of these things that are different problems into the same bucket, like it's the same problem. Like, yeah, we all agree that the drafting is bad. Okay, you have to address that in one way. You can't say the drafting is bad, so you have to spend a bunch of money because the drafting is going to always be bad.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying trade up.
Yeah,
like, trade up.
I agree with you, but like, we have to address these things as separate problems. So like, I don't know I don't personally know anything about the rollover money and like what that looks like and how the rollover works and this and that. Like, I don't know anything about that. So what I do is just take the player at like, here's the number that is worth it. Here's the number that makes sense, like, for this individual player at this individual time for this individual contract. And like, you sort of have to do like there are kind of the pendulum swings two ways. A lot of people are just way over the top, like, oh, it's the salary cap and you have to, give everybody as much as they want and, this and that. And then you can
it's market value based on the production around them. So for example, with Trey Hendrickson, you can compare him to the top 10 in the league because that's what he's playing at.
Yeah, and he's making
so your market rate is within that top 10 average or more. Yeah, and if you prioritize him as a top 5 guy, like a Nick Bosa, then you're going to pay him top money.
I agree with that 100%. But that's my point, is that they're prioritizing Jamar as a top guy. But like,
he is.
Yes, that's my point. Mm-hmm. But he said no to the deal. So like $90 million is, there's got to be something from Jamar where he's like, this is more than the more guaranteed money that the Bengals have given to every player in their history outside of Joe Burrow. Like,
well, I think if anything, it's a negotiating tactic. So now he knows what their first offer is, or what their offer is right now this year. Mm-hmm. So now he can take it and leverage it in the following year, right? I mean, that's a way to negotiate.
I agree.
He's not wrong for doing that. Cincinnati, the first one to throw the number out is typically the fool, right? But in this case, Cincinnati is being forthcoming and trying to prioritize their franchise guy. I think they came at it with good intentions. I think all we're trying to do is wrap a bow on this and say, listen, Cincinnati can prioritize more than Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. And I think they can do it in a much better way than they're doing right now. How that looks, I don't totally know, but we do know where the holes are on this team and where they're not prioritizing. And I've seen it all over Twitter for weeks and weeks, where they're really not prioritizing the front seven on the defense, more specifically the defensive line and that interior, and they've not prioritized it on the back end. They've tried, but it's not really working. So I think we need to take a different approach and go into free agency where we actually go after some proven vets. That's where Dusty, I think, is trying to articulate that we could leverage some of those draft picks that we have instead of continuing to not hit on these draft picks. And I think we did a good combination of that in 2021, pre-2021, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah. And I agree with that. My point as a general is just like, there's a lot of the 30,000 foot view where it's like, hey, we have to prioritize free agency guys. Okay, I agree with that. But who are the guys in any given year, and what's the number that the Bengals are willing to give them in any given year? So like, any given year, there's only 2 or 3 top guys at.
It doesn't even need to be a free agent, Chris, as we're all aware. You can make a trade with your draft picks. If you know, for example, that you're not hitting well on these draft picks and your scouting department really isn't doing the job. So the remediation process of that is, number one, you need to fire those guys and get better guys. But number two, take some of those draft picks and now leverage them into a proven vet. And there's a lot of tier 2 and tier 3 guys that could make a big jump on this team as opposed to what we have now. But you've got to reach out to them.
Well, it's all about efficiency.
That's on the front office, though, to go after. That's the whole point. Yeah,
it's the efficiency of the front office and how they're operating.
That's the front office's job. The coaches are kind of backed into a wall right now. I almost feel bad for them because they're working.
I feel bad for Zach Taylor.
The front office gave.
Listen, Zach Taylor.
There are defenses right now in the NFL that have worse players that are doing better than the Bengals.
Right, so that could come down to coaching and front office, which is something that I've seen a trend of quite often online.
I don't see how that could be front office when like they have worse players. They have
it's front office because we knew that
because it's a better scheme. They're attacking it better. You mentioned it before. Lou Anarumo finally started sending blitzes. He finally started sending guys this week at Lamar, and it worked.
Like, they still gave up 31 points.
Well, the problem is you have Davis Gaither. Davis Gaither is an athletic dude. He's a linebacker. Maybe put him in. We've done it before where we use spies. Now,
I would rather see Davis Gaither put in over Jermaine Pratt.
Right now. Because he's more athletic. Yeah. And then you have that 6th round pick, and I keep forgetting his name. Deshaun Anthony. Deshaun Anthony. Like, he's more athletic. Like, my whole frustration, I think you guys can all agree with it, is where the money was spent and where it could have been used differently. And on top of that, the draft capital we had in the way we used it. We didn't leverage it. We didn't leverage our players. And now we're in the situation with a top 5 offense, in which our offense is. It's a top 5. That's where I give Zach Taylor this kind of benefit of the doubt, where Zach Taylor has ran the offense fairly good, other than he acted like a insert bad word in overtime. And if you get that first down, you can jump on the ball. You had 2 timeouts. You can call timeouts. Whatever you want to do, you can get it closer. You can also, snap happens, you have this rookie holder that's also your punter, who, let's be honest, had some great punts. He's literally number 1 in I think yards per kick, but also he's pinned him, which caused the safety. The dude's good. So
to me, at face value, not to cut you off, but to me at face value, the offense is a really good combination of free agency signings, veterans.
It is. Look at the offensive line.
A few guys we've drafted, and some guys we've prioritized. On the defensive side, on the other hand, it just seems like a combination of a couple guys that we've prioritized signing, and the rest is just throwing as many people as we can at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Here's the thing about the line is Alex Kappa, he got good money. He didn't get top of the market guard money.
But he's great.
But he's been doing good.
But my point is he signed on a Bengals contract. He didn't sign because the Bengals went out and just threw money at the top guy. Like, we don't have Alex Kappa.
But at the time, Alex Kappa was playing at a fringe Pro Bowl level with Tampa Bay.
Now look at rankings.
Right, but he didn't get the high dollar deal from the other teams, which is why he signed in Cincinnati for slightly less. Ted Karras, his deal was like $6 million or $5 million a year. So like it's low. That's my point. Is that like, yes, those guys are playing good. We have gotten very good play out of those guys. The same thing with Chidobe years ago.
Fringe.
That was a 7-year. The same way the first Von Bell contract was $7 million a year by 21. Like, my point is, we're not just out here. Like, the guys that we hit on are not just dudes that we're like, let's go throw all the money at. Because DJ Reader hit, but Trey Waynes didn't hit. Like there are times.
Well, it wasn't just Trey Waynes; it was the other safety from the the other corner from the Vikings, and he did not play good either. What was his name? Started with an M. McKenzie, something. But that dude, he was a slot.
No, that's what's his? Yeah.
But he didn't hit, but he played more during that time frame. And I agree with you, Chris. I don't think you need to send all this money out, but that's where scouting comes in. That's where Duke Tobin and the Bengals don't have a GM. They literally don't have an actual general manager. They have player personnel. Like, you don't even have this guy a title. That's where the frustration comes in. Like, and I get it. Like, he's probably paid at this rate, but they're not doing good, man. They're not. Like, honestly, if you go back past, look where we took, what was his name? Jonah Williams. So Jonah Williams was an average player. Look at Billy Price. Billy Price was a reach because they took the center before that ended up becoming an all-pro center, and they freaked out because, all of a sudden they need a center. Also, they drafted Zeitler, and they didn't re-sign Zeitler, who became a great player. They didn't re-sign Whitworth because his age. They freaked out about his age. I think the front office needs some new faces. I think that's where we're at, kind of, is like, there needs to be some new faces. There needs to be some new ideas. Lou, if Lou has good players to fit his scheme, he does great. But like, when he doesn't, it's bad, man. That defense is bad. It's the worst in the league overall. Like,
second worst
in the league. Like, you have to find a way to get players out there that can at least be decent. Like, somebody's got to be the worst, but you can't have the best offense and the worst defense and expect to be something. Like, that's where the front office comes in hand, where you have to understand, how do we make all this work? And they're not doing it. And there was drama in the off season.
They brought in Geno Stone. Like, they tried to do it.
But Geno Stone
target a guy, and they tried to target a guy. When Geno Stone got signed, we were all excited about it. this guy's a playmaker. We've seen him play center field. We've seen him get 5 interceptions last year. Like when Geno Stone was signed, we were excited about it. We were like, good job, front office. Good
he
job.
was a beneficiary of their good.
He's a 25-year-old guy who his arrow was pointing up. Like we were excited about it. Nobody would have guessed like Geno Stone.
But who was he playing beside? He was playing beside Kyle Hamilton, who's arguably one of the best safeties in the league next to Jesse Bates. We had Jesse Bates and we didn't keep him. Like that's kind of my point. Like you have Jesse Bates, who's arguably the best safety, but let's wrap this up.
I think we've hit on a lot of our frustration. I think ultimately we all agree that we just want to see something change. Ultimately, I think there just needs to be some more macro changes. I think we need to look at it a lot differently. I think the entire organization needs to look at things a lot differently. And ultimately, it's a really bad look when you're a 1-4 team and your coach isn't taking accountability. So at the end of the day, all this bull crap aside, we can talk about players and get in the weeds all we want. This team has got to take a much, much different approach. This is something I've hyped on Twitter for weeks now. And I think that at the end of the day, if you ever want to get to the top, you have to make a very different approach. I think that change is gonna have to go all the way down to the roots, in my opinion. That's all I'm gonna say. And it's not just the players and the coaches.
Go ahead, Chris. I'll wrap it up after.
Yeah, I think that they did try to take a different approach by giving Jamar a boatload of money, and then he said no. Like they tried to take a different approach by signing him a year early, but then he said, let's wait till CeeDee Lamb gets done. And then CeeDee Lamb got done 2.5 weeks before the season. Like they tried to do the things. They tried to do it like that. Those are all reasonable asks. But one, I think Lou Anarumo has not done a good job as a defensive coordinator this year. Mike Zimmer used to be known for, he used to call them like the scrapyard defense or the scrap iron defenses or something like that, where he would take a bunch of dudes who had no names, who had no contracts, who were out. Basically, they just picked them up out of the scrapyard and he threw them together and were top 10 defenses because of scheme. I think if we're saying that Lou doesn't have the players for his scheme, then he needs to adjust his scheme. That's the coach's job, is to make a scheme that's going to be successful with the players that you have. So if he can't do that, then we need to get him out of there and get somebody else in. Last thing for me is that we're 1-4, but there are still 17 games this year. So like we have 12 games left. We can go 9-3 and make the playoffs. And like the way that the offense has been playing and with Joe Burrow at quarterback, I don't think that any of us, like if last year the Bengals started 1-3 and then they went on a 4 streak. If we go on a 4-game win streak here and all of a sudden we're 5-4, like I don't think that any of us would be like, oh yeah, like it's completely different. All we need to do is just get a couple of wins. All we need to do is just get back on track, because I still do think that 9-3 entering the playoffs as a wild card team is attainable. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be like we thought it was at the beginning of the season. But with Joe Burrow at quarterback, and when we're putting up 35 points a week, like you got to believe that if you're scoring 35 a week, that you're going to start to win them eventually. So I think that Lou's got to scheme up some things to be better, whether that's bring more pressure and play more high risk, high reward, get a couple of turnovers, give up a couple of big plays. All you got to do is get a couple of stops.
Yeah. So that was a lot of stuff. So everyone's listening. We, I know for myself and Chris and Tony, we definitely appreciate everyone listening to us vent and talk and get our discussions out. My thoughts are we have 4 winnable games up in front of us. Like Chris just said, you can get to a winning record. We can move on. We'll have a tough little stretch, especially when we play Baltimore at home on prime time. That's going to be tough, but the Bengals have a chance. They really do. They as much as, we're irritated and aggravated, they do have a chance to make a push. And when they get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Anything can happen. So I'm looking forward to that and looking how this team responds. Winners want to win. We have a lot of winners on this team. Defensively, I don't know. Like, other than Trey Hendrickson, Mike Hilton, you can tie Mike Hilton in there, and you have the linebacking core with Pratt and Wilson. Like, those guys, Cam Taylor-Britt, but outside of that, the defense is still questionable, and it scares me. It really does. It is. That's the old saying: defenses win championships, and that's kind of where it comes to with me. Joe Burrow said it. It's not me. It's not me saying it. They're not a championship level team. There needs to be accountability had within there. And when you get your quarterback saying that, dude, that's where the fear kind of sinks in. He knows he's doing what he can. He's playing literally at an MVP level. His numbers are great. The offense is doing good. That's where I don't want to hate on Zach too much, but the play calling at the end of the game really pisses me off. So we discussed that. We're not going to get into it. Let's see where it goes. The next 4 games, they're winnable games. We lost to the Commanders, but the Commanders are looking good. They are probably better than what people think. So that loss is, it's tough, but it might not be too tough when the season ends. But let's finish this up. I want to give thanks to Ross and Tyler, and we had multiple other people comment in here. We got a lot of listeners, so definitely appreciate it. It's always fun when we see the listeners leave comments and stuff. We try to engage with everybody as much as we can, answer your questions, and not just answer them, but we really feed off of them because we'll see them, and it's just oh, we forgot this point, forgot that point. So it's definitely a lot of fun. So we appreciate you guys. Overall, there's still a lot of season to be had. The Bengals might turn around, man. They could turn to 5-4, right? It could be 5-4. We could be talking a little different.
Hey, I'm just worried about 2-4 right now,
dude. Yeah, I'm not. Let's get some wins. Let's move on week to week. See what happens. Front office, just you guys have to do better. Overall, regardless, evaluating talent in the draft, you can't miss year after year. I will consistently hold them accountable no matter what. You can't have Jamar Chase and then a kicker and be accepted. That's my ending point. Once again, thank you guys. If you're not following us and you're listening, we got quite a few listeners, and we appreciate all you. Follow us on Bengals Army on Twitter and then on YouTube. So thank you guys. Who Dey.